That's Teens Unite, a really, really worthy cause if you want to support it. Okay, so now we have Chris Browne, and please do get a piece of paper and a pen because what he's going to be teaching us is very, very useful. Isn't it, Chris?
Very useful,
How are you?
Chrissy. I'm great, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm excited to see what you're going to teach us today.
Well, what I'm going to teach, funny you use the word teach because we're actually talking about learning. It's about learning to learn. And it's going back on how we actually learn, because as a child, we grow up and we learn. That's our thing we want to do, and we just grasp information. Talking about from, let's say, preschool right in. Then after a while, we start to develop a style of what we're used to learning and a certain way of learning. And what I'm going to explain is these three ways of learning styles. The first one we're talking about is VAC. Now, VAC is abbreviation. We're talking about V. V means for visual learning. Now, there are certain people who learn visually, right? Then we've got the A, which is auditory, which is more of listening, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we got the K, which is kinesthetic, which is more touchy-feely learning. Now, in saying that, different people learn in different ways. So could you imagine this? You've got a class, and you've got a class of, let's say, 10 children. You've got 10 children in class, and I'm sure someone can actually talk about when they've actually experienced as a child. You've got 10 children in class. 4 of them are visual learners. So they're more see and read people, right? And then you've got another 4, which are, let's say, auditory, right? So they're more speak and listen. But then you've got 2, which might be kinesthetic. And you might be the one, when you were a child, who was a kinesthetic child, who's more touchy-feely. You need to be shown how to actually do something instead. More, as my wife would put it, experimental instead, right? So, right, you need to be shown how to do it. So you've got the 2 of you. Then what happens is the teacher at the class is teaching them on a screen, or let's say on a board, and they're explaining things. So for the child that, say, has the more visual side, they'll pick it up pretty quick. That's their learning style. The child with auditory style, listening to it, will pick it up. The person
the other one
wouldn't really pick it up, right? So you think about it. Now they get their results at the end, and they seem like an underachiever. They didn't do well. They didn't feel they do well. Well, let me tell you this at home now. Wrong. You probably did do well, but you just didn't know your style. It's very interesting because there's a lot of people who have been labelled in certain ways, but obviously time has moved on. We found out different teaching styles, different learning styles. Now, when you said get a pen and paper, this is the reason why, because what we're going to do is going to find out what your learning style is and see how you can improve yourself into more learn, right? So I'm going to break that down again. I'm going to go back over them. So I want you to write down the V, which is visual. V is for visual.
Visual.
Now, these people are more read and see. See and read people. Okay, we got that down. Now we got the A, which is auditory. These people are more listeners and speakers. And then we've got the last one, I hope I haven't gone too fast here.
No, that's fine.
Which is kinesthetic.
How'd you spell that?
Well, this is really funny, right? Because that's what I was going to say. Do you know where the word came from, kinesthetic? It's an old...
It's a Greek word.
There you go.
Because it's to do with move. No, it's not. Is it to do with
you're on the right
track.
track.
Movement, yeah.
There you are. Yes, kinesthetic. So, kine is movement. It's an old 19th century word. And,
you see, all the words come from the Greek language, kino, which means movement. Yes,
movement, and asiatic is the side of sensation, feeling, right? Okay, so putting 2 together, some people learn better that way. So they're more touchy-feely people. Now, think about this. If that's the case, then you've got to work out for yourself, which one are you? What is your learning style? Reflect back to the things you do. I'll give you a prime example. Let's talk about practical things. I was saying to Chrissy earlier on that, let's run a little fun test and say this. And here goes a fun little test. And you try this at home as well, right? Now, imagine this. You've gone to that very well-known store where they do flat pack tables and furniture. And you get this furniture at home. Here we go. You've got 3 choices. Do you open it up and read the instructions?
Yes, I do.
One. Okay, right. Or number 2, right? Do you get somebody to explain to you the instructions?
No.
Right? Number 3, do you just have a go at putting it together?
Never.
Never, right? So you said yours is the first one.
First one,
right?
definitely, yeah.
Now, think about this at home as well. Right, Chrissy said that's the first one. Now you think about it, let's put it the other way around. VAK, that's what I actually asked you. Visual, auditory, or kinesthetic, right? So you said you're a visual person. You probably read it, put it together, follow instructions, right? Let's try another one. Let's try another one while we're at it. Okay, all right, let's say a recipe. That's an interesting one, recipe. Okay, you've got the recipe there. Do you actually read the recipe, put in each ingredient, right? Do you call up your friend and say, look, could you explain this to me, somebody who's made it already? Or do you do it by taste while you go along making it? This tastes good.
Now, will it really confuse matters if I said all three?
You do all three?
With the recipe, yeah. But I do tend to follow a recipe.
Right.
But then I will base it on taste, and sometimes if someone has made it before, it doesn't look quite right. Is this the right way of doing it? So probably the first one would take precedence.
Well, it's funny you said it, because that helps to explain what I'm about to explain, because you just said you do all three. Now, in saying this, the three, it doesn't mean that person sticks to one only. It means that one of them is your strongest point of learning. But we're multiple people. We're made up of the three at the end of the day. We could do visual, we could do auditory, and we could do kinesthetic. Now, I'd look at it and think, well, all right, I might have done the kinesthetic, I might have done auditory. You know, I teach a lot of seminars. It's auditory. And I know that for me to transfer that information, there's a certain group out there that will pick this up in that way. There's a certain group up there that if I've got a PowerPoint, they will pick this up. So I'll mix both, so they both pick it up and they both have a great experience. That's at the Chris Browne seminars, I'm just plugging it. Right? Okay, they have a great experience there. Right? But think back to it, seriously, think back to yourself. What would you have done in that situation? And if you think back to think, what would you have done in that situation? You'd probably you'd probably pick up your learning style. Forget what happened before. Even if you start to relearn and study again, you might realize that, well, those marks that you got might not be the marks that you should have had. Because
how can you use that in practice today? Like, what can you do with that learn? Now, if, say, for example, I know that I'm the first one, say, for example, how can that benefit me today? Okay,
think about this. Let's just say your situation was that, let's give a little improvisation here. Might have been in class when you was younger, and it might have been that you were kinesthetic, and the probably tutor at the time, not aware of that, blanket teaching. Right, and when you came at your results and they said, well, you're a pretty bad underachiever, you didn't do well, and then you get the feeling of it, because we're talking about feeling touchy, that I am an underachiever and I'm not good at this subject, and this subject might be numeracy, it might be maths. So you go away thinking, every time you come up to that subject, I'm not going to touch it. I wouldn't go there at all. But this is what you do with it practically today. You realise which is your perfect learning style. Now, from learning what your perfect learning style is, you'll go back and attack that and challenge it again. You'd find a better way of explaining it. You know, if somebody was explaining something to me that I couldn't pick up on, I'd actually ask them, could you explain it in a way that I can understand?
That's really interesting.
It's interesting,
so
isn't it?
First of all, you realise that actually you weren't that bad at school.
Exactly.
And that you just needed to learn in a different way. So, and actually, I think probably nowadays most people know how to teach different kind of styles.
Well, that's the benefits of today, is in the teaching.
So I actually be good at maths.
You might be brilliant at it.
I was really bad at economics. I never got that. I never understood that. Actually, I think I got a U.
Right.
Which my dad said was U for useless, but it was actually unclassified. I didn't even get a grade in that. So maybe I should revisit economics.
Well, sometimes it's worth revisiting some things that we failed at the time because of a circumstance and situation and environment.
That's such a confidence booster. Thank you, Chris.
Oh, great. Glad you like it.
Yeah.
I hope that them at home are actually making some use of this and actually put it in practice and let you know about it.
So first, know which category you fall into.
That's right.
And then that can be your learning. So that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Join us again next week.
I will do.
I like these little tests. You should do more of them.
Yeah. That's great.
All right, then. So we have reached the end of